Hey everybody, my name is JD Goff. I'm the author of The Rune That Binds and The Undying Night, as well as The Whisper of God. And that's coming out in late July, early August. I don't have the exact release date yet. I've been saying July 25th, 2025, but it's been pushed back a little bit. At any rate, today I'm going to focus on something controversial. We're not going to talk about anything. I'm not going to do any tutorials per se, but I want to talk about artificial intelligence, which there's a lot of controversy swirling around this. There's a lot of talk about the jobs that's going to end and about the morality and the ethicality of using it in your writing or writing with it, or however you want to frame that discussion. It's a very controversial topic, and there's a lot of animosity toward it in general, but I'm gonna take a different view. I'm not gonna talk about whether or not you should use AI. In my opinion, artificial intelligence is here. The genie is not going back in the bottle. So the question isn't whether or not to use it, but if you're going to use it, how to use it ethically. Now, I'm not going to talk about that today per se, because I think that still has to be worked out. I don't really use artificial intelligence except sparingly. And usually when I do it, it's to quickly write code or script that I need to get something working in Excel or to get a program up and running on my website, something like that. I have used it to, I want to say not create blurbs, but to get an idea of how I would like my blurb to be. If you're like me, and I think most authors really struggle with the blurb because we're so close to the story, we want to include everything in there. But the AI helps me kind of narrow down what needs to go into the blurb. So I don't write the blurb with it, but I do use AI to kind of get my focus on the important things in the story. That said, I think the bigger threat that AI poses, and this is not something I've heard anybody else talk about, but it is a concern of mine, and that is that we already are competing our books are out with lots of other books, millions of other books are out there. And the fact that AI can generate content incredibly quickly is just going to up the number of books that are going to be put out every year that we have to compete against. And I think that's a far bigger thing to be worried about than whether or not AI will become a factor in books that get written. I think it's a false flag to worry about that because people connect to people. And if you are an author and you're out there and you're talking to people and you're engaged with your fan base, you're engaged with your audience, AI is not going to replace you. Your people are going to be connecting to you, the author. But the point is if you focus on being your brand, not your story, but you. You are your brand. You are the author that people are going to come to conventions to see. And this is a bizarre thing, but it does happen. I have I'm small, but I do have people come to conventions I'm at to see me. They're there for me. I'm not only me, they're there for other stuff too, but I was one of the reasons why they came. And it's a bit of an odd sensation, but the reality is because I try to engage people at the conventions. I try to be forthright and upcoming and I talk to them, not at them, but they're coming to see me. They're asking me for my autograph, not my word processor's autograph. But I think the AI getting rid of or supplanting or replacing writers is not really something we have to concern ourselves with. I think if you're a graphic artist, that's a different story because AI it does take some work to get passably good art out of AI. And then you have to go and you have to do a lot of touch up to get it where you need it to be in order for it to look good. But it's gonna have an impact on the graphic, arts industry, there's no question about that. I think less so to writers. But back to my point, I think the biggest challenge that AI is gonna present for us as authors is the sheer volume of output that it's gonna be able to produce in a short time. We're already competing with, a lot of books on the internet. There's already like a million books or more a year that Amazon puts out, most of which are self-published. And what that means is that you're not being seen. You have to compete with a million or more books every year, and there's no guarantee that a reader's going to find you. You have to go find readers. They're not going to just walk into a bookstore and find you. They're not going to just find you on Amazon. And AI is just going to make that worse because you can produce a book in a day as opposed to several weeks of research, and AI is just going to print it out, format it. It's going to be spelling's correct and the grammar's going to be correct, and it's just going to throw it out there. And people click and upload bad books all the time. So it's just going to be an explosion of content. So I think what it's going to mean for the industry, and I think it's actually a good thing, is a refocusing on traditional publication as opposed to self-publication. I think there's always going to be a market for self-publication, just depending on different niches and what you want to do personally. But here's the difference between publishing on Amazon and making a submission to a traditional publisher. A little bit of back history here for you, real fast. So, The Rune That Binds was written initially in 2011, 2012, and I sent it off to several publishers. And Daw bit. So, Daw, if you're familiar with the fantasy, science fiction genres, you know that they're one of the big three publishers in that genre. And Daw was interested in my manuscript. Daw at the time was one of the few publishers that still accepted unsolicited, unagented manuscripts. And so I just sent my manuscript off to them with my self-addressed stamped envelope, which is basically an envelope that said, "Hey, if you want to reject my manuscript, I'm going to pay for you to mail that rejection to me." You used to have to pay for them to reject your manuscript. Now everything's done through email, but this was back when we are kind of in that transitory change where they still received a lot of manuscripts. What happens is when you submit a manuscript to a company like Daw Publisher is going to queue it up to be read or reviewed by a first reader. They have what's called the slush pile. The slush pile is just every manuscript they receive that year gets sent to this slush pile, and then each manuscript is looked at briefly by what's called the first reader, and they make a decision based upon the first couple paragraphs as to whether or not to advance your book to maybe a second reader or to set it aside to read more in depth and see if there's a story there. So the slush pile has moved out of the publishers and onto the internet with one important distinction, and that is if you're in a slush pile at a publishing house, you're going to get read. Someone's going to pick up your manuscript, they're going to open it, they're going to look at it. Now, they may not read the whole thing, but your manuscript is going to be looked at. On Amazon, there's no guarantee that anybody's going to look at your book, especially with the millions of books that they have to choose from and the inevitable volume of AI generated content that's going to swell that number to even larger degree. So I think traditional publishing is actually going to see a resurgence because one, they'll be able to vet their authorship and say, yeah, this is a legitimate author. This is a real person who wrote the book, pounding away on the keyboard for however long, and it was edited by real people, and the graphics, the cover was designed by a real graphic artist, and the typesetting was done probably by AI. Typesetting will take care of AI will take care of menial tasks like that. But the book's genuinely created by a human being, and that's going to be a badge of authenticity for a lot of authors and readers, and they're going to go to that and they're going to walk away from self-published books even more. This is my opinion. It's my speculation based upon my personal feelings. So the traditional route also has this important distinction, and that is that your book is going to be looked at by a human being. Now, I think AI will kind of take a look at some things. AI will help streamline the process so they can move through a lot faster. So they're going to look for grammatical errors, spelling errors, red flags that say this person's not ready to be published yet because they're sending in inferior work. But your book's going to be looked at. You're competing against, instead of millions of books, you're competing against maybe at a large publisher like Daw, 100,000 books. At a smaller publisher, maybe 1,000 books. But the point is, somebody's going to pick up and look at your manuscript and make a decision on it. You can't guarantee that with Amazon. And if you want people to look, you have to advertise. You have to find ways to connect to and get people to see your book, and that costs money or it takes a lot of time. Whereas if you send it into a publisher, they're going to actually look at it. So, in my opinion, I think it's going to see a resurgence in traditional publishing. I could be wrong. Uh, right now, it's new enough technology that nobody really knows how it's going to shape the industry. But just based upon my experience and seeing history repeat itself, it's not going to end publishing. It's going to reshape it certainly. But when the Kindle came out, everyone was saying this is the end of print books. I still buy print books. Print books have sentimental value. I have books that I received when I was a kid that my dad bought for me that a download just will not reproduce that. I have my great great grandfather's Bible. He was a Baptist minister. That's a piece of my family history there that's tangible in my hand. And a download's not going to be the same. So just like the Kindle did reshape the industry, it didn't do away with the print book. I don't think AI is going to be as catastrophic as everybody says it's going to be, but it will reshape the industry. And I think that major reshape is going to be in the rise of traditional publishers again, where the author can be vetted as a real person, and the guarantee for authors who want to be published to have their book legitimately looked at by somebody who's going to make a decision. Whereas Amazon, you're just one of millions of books that nobody's going to look at unless you deliberately force their eyes onto it. So, guys, this was not a tutorial, obviously, but those are my thoughts on the subject. I know it's very controversial. I'm hoping this will kind of help give you some different perspective on AI, help you kind of understand a little bit of where I think that the industry is going to go, based upon how AI operates and how publishing traditionally is going to provide safeguards for readers to know that they're reading stuff written by real people, and for authors as a place to go and make sure your book actually gets looked at, as opposed to the millions of books on Amazon. You're only competing with a few thousand books at the publisher. It increases your odds dramatically of being found. At any rate, guys, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate you. And I'm working on actually trying to get some other videos put together. If you have any ideas for what you'd like, I've thought about doing Scrivener if you're interested in it. Scrivener is a very popular writing program, but it is not free. My focus has been kind of on doing free stuff. So I've been looking at some open source software to do a tutorial on. But if you have anything you'd like me to do a tutorial on, please let me know. Also, like and subscribe. And guys, best way to support me, either redirect somebody over to my site to get a copy of The Rune That Binds, or if you like dark fantasy, go grab a copy yourself and have a good read. Thank you guys very much. Make sure you write every day, and I will talk to you later.